Hey guys, my name is Colin. This is Colin Talks Crypto. I'm trying out something new here. This is a podcast style format. It allows me to do a bit of a longer audio recording. It's less difficult to edit, and I hope that I'm able to bring you more information on this particular style. Don't worry, I'll still drop videos in the future. But in this video, I wanted to talk to you about 3 different topics. We're going to talk about Lido.fi, which is an Ethereum 2.0 staking smart contract on Ethereum 1. I want to talk to you about my recent St. Kitts and Nevis application for citizenship and why I'm doing that and what the steps entail. And I want to talk to you about Terra Luna, the Terra Luna blockchain, the Luna token, and why I recently sold about 25% of my EOS for Luna tokens, and I am now a Luna token holder. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. All right, guys, I hope you're all doing fantastic. I've been doing very well. I've been staying super busy. We've been creating the CBBI.info website, which is the Colin Talks Crypto Bitcoin Bull Run Index website. It basically allows you to track the progress to the peak using a simple single number that represents our confidence score. Basically, as we approach 100, we think that we're getting close to the top. So I encourage you all to check that out. I guess in a way, I'm sponsoring my own creation. I don't have sponsors on my channel, but I did create a website that I'd like you to check out. So if you haven't checked that out already, it's CBBI.info, CBBI.info. So the first topic I'd like to talk about is Lido.fi, Lido.fi. You can open that in your browser right now and check it out while I'm talking to you about it if you want. But basically, here's the situation. So I'm an Ethereum holder. In fact, Ethereum is currently my biggest portfolio holding of all my crypto and all my assets. I've been holding Ethereum for many years now, I think since 2015, really. And while I love what Ethereum is doing, it's grossly and badly and sorely in need of scaling. And because of that, so many other blockchains have come to exist to try to take up that slack on the lack of scaling that Ethereum has currently. And these are blockchains from EOS, which is one of my bigger investments early on, Cardano, which still to this day still does not have smart contracts and blows my mind as to where it is on the market cap rankings, just speaking frankly there. Someday it will have them, I know. Polkadot, Solana, Terra Luna, Tron, all of these different blockchains basically exist more or less to scale smart contracts, something that Ethereum lacks. Ethereum's got the smart contract part down, and some of these blockchains have improved upon that, but the speed is where it's been lacking for Ethereum. In terms of congestion and block size capacity, very similar, oddly, to Bitcoin. And while some argue that that's just the nature of any successful blockchain, the indicator of success is that it becomes full and that there are fees involved because you are competing with others to get into that next block. Actually, I don't think that's actually a true statement. Maybe on some level, but I think really what's happening is we're bumping into the programmed limits of early blockchains. Bitcoin is the earliest blockchain, and Ethereum is the earliest smart contract blockchain. And I think that is actually the only reason we're running into those limits. We have hit the capacity limits for these early models. Newer blockchains, like the ones I've just mentioned, have all more or less solved these scaling issues in their own ways. Most of them, in fact, I think all of them are proof of stake. Proof of stake is pretty much the de facto standard for the future of blockchain consensus. Not to say that there couldn't be another, but the clear move is away from proof of work and toward proof of stake. There aren't any really new popular proof of work chains in the last few years. Only the pre-existing grandfather Bitcoin remains number one at the time being, although its market cap dominance has been dropping steadily since its creation 10 years ago. And I do expect that trend of dropping market cap dominance to continue pretty much into the foreseeable future for the next 10 years. I think we're going to see a dropping dominance for Bitcoin. And that's understandable because there's a greater and greater number of alternative currencies out there and cryptocurrencies. And so it's only natural that with every additional cryptocurrency that's created, you're going to have that much less money in Bitcoin and that much more money outside of Bitcoin. It's just the nature of the game. But I digress there a little bit. And so the reason I'm talking about Bitcoin is because it can't scale. Ethereum is having difficulty scaling, although recently they did at least raise their effective block size limit. They raised their maximum gas limit a little bit, and that eased some of the congestion and that lowered the fees a bit. And that was awesome. And that's a gesture that really bodes confidence in me as an investor in a particular blockchain, as opposed to something like Bitcoin, where the core developers, for whatever reason, I have my theories, are so stubbornly fixated on limiting that block size and not scaling it at all and pushing everything off onto other layers, which isn't happening fast enough. So effectively, they're killing themselves by failing to scale. And this is going to take decades to fully play out. But if they continue this path of refusing to scale the base layer well within the means of modern technology, then all that's going to happen is they're going to push away dollars to other blockchains. That's a simple way to put it. The value of the Bitcoin would be tremendously higher if it was able to scale on chain. And there's nothing wrong with having layer 2 scaling. Don't mistake me for that at all. It's totally fine to have the option of scaling. But when you prohibit the base layer from scaling, that's where you have weird design choices, faulty design choices, and in my opinion, most likely a conflict of interest. But this video isn't about that. And so let's get on to Lido.fi. What is Lido.fi? It's essentially a smart contract on Ethereum 1.0 that you can use to send your Ethereum 1.0 tokens and stake them with validators on Ethereum 2.0. And part of the problem currently with staking on Ethereum 2.0 is that doing so with your ETH1 tokens locks them up. And it locks those tokens up for an unforeseeable duration. We think it might be 12 to 18 months from now where we get that next phase of Ethereum 2.0 that enables us to transfer tokens. But until we get the ability to transfer tokens, any Ethereum 1.0 tokens that are sent to the Ethereum 2.0 blockchain and that are staked are effectively frozen. And you get staking rewards, but you cannot move them around. You cannot do anything with your Ethereum 1.0 tokens. And that's a very difficult decision for some people to make because they want the liquidity of their tokens and they want to be able to transfer those Ethereum tokens. And so Lido.fi was created to sort of help with that issue. Lido.fi does something cool. It gives you a placeholder token, an ERC20 token. It's STETH. Instead of just ETH, it's staked ETH, STETH. And you will basically get a 1-for-1 for any Ethereum token you send to the Lido smart contract. And so, for example, if you have 50 ETH and you send all 50 of those ETH to the Lido smart contract, you're going to receive 50 staked ETH, 50 STETH tokens. Your actual ETH goes into the smart contract, gets sent to various validators on the Ethereum 2.0 blockchain, which have proven track records and high uptimes so that you don't incur slashing penalties. Lido also has some insurance against any validators that end up incurring any slashing penalties, but so far it's looking very reliable, and I don't really anticipate that happening because everyone's money is channeled into the same common interest of maximum uptime for anyone staking their tokens in the Ethereum 2.0 blockchain. So the difference that Lido.fi offers is an ability to receive this token, this placeholder token, in the meantime, until you are able to transact your Ethereum 2.0 tokens. And what does this mean? This means that you can actually take the STETH token and use it in DeFi in the meantime. So you're not totally frozen. And as soon as that next phase of Ethereum 2.0 happens, that frees you up and allows you to transfer tokens, your STETH tokens will then be swappable back for the Ethereum 2.0 tokens, which are then liquid at that time. But up until that time, and again, that could take 12 to 18 months, you have this STETH token and you can use it in DeFi. You could use it in a liquidity protocol to earn passive income, or maybe you could farm with it and earn passive income using this STETH token. So really what they've done is very clever. They've given you the ability to have this placeholder and to do something with it in various DeFi applications. And the interesting thing is that the STETH token, this placeholder, is worth basically identical to what its Ethereum counterpart is worth. So if ETH is worth $3,800, the STETH token is basically worth $3,800. So it's adding some flexibility where it didn't priorly exist. Prior to Lido, you had to basically decide to lock up your tokens and to be okay with the fact that you aren't able to do anything further with them. So Lido is enabling you to get this placeholder token and gives you a little more flexibility and the ability to possibly generate some more income off of your Ethereum where you wouldn't be able to do so otherwise. Now keep in mind that there are the risks of the fact that you are trusting a third-party contract. And Lido.fi has been audited by several firms, and it has over $1 billion worth of Ethereum currently locked up in it. So this is no small-time smart contract. However, that's not to say that it's not possible for something to happen, a flaw, an exploit, or a hack of some sort. And that is what we saw back in 2015 or 16 with the DAO. I was actually a part of the DAO, and luckily I got back my original Ethereum tokens from that because of the hard fork, which resulted in Ethereum Classic. And that's its own kind of hot topic debate, which we won't get into here. But I have been a part of a smart contract that actually did have an exploit. And in that case, I was lucky to get my tokens back, but I don't think that we will ever see that happen again unless there's some kind of DeFi insurance on that particular platform. So just be aware that even though there's $1 billion locked up in Lido.fi, it doesn't mean that it's flawless. And even though it's been audited by several firms, doesn't mean it's perfect. So I recommend just putting in what you could afford to lose. I don't recommend going gangbusters and putting everything in it unless you really just feel confident that this smart contract is going to do what it says it's going to do, and it's going to do that for the next 18 months until you get access to your Ethereum 2.0 tokens. For me, I don't feel that confident, so I put in just a small percentage of my Ethereum. It is nice to get about a 6% reward while staking on Lido. I think it's actually 7%, so it is nice. That 7% reward is really nice to get, but is that worth your entire stash? And in my case, no, it's not. I think that there's a inverse correlation as time goes on between risk taking and wealth preservation. And it depends on where you're at on that cross correlation. If you're more risk averse like myself, you'll probably put a smaller percentage into Lido or into similar staking platforms at the moment. But if your risk appetite is a little stronger, maybe you'll want to put half of your ETH or all of your ETH into Lido or other similar staking platforms. So really just consult yourself. You know, this is not financial advice, as none of my videos are. And really, it depends on your personal life situation and where you're at and what you're trying to achieve and how much risk you're willing to take on. Also, Lido.fi has employed a bounty program to encourage anyone who finds any exploits to disclose those and divulge those in a safe manner. So you really have a lot of safety mechanisms in place, and that is why I feel fairly safe using the platform, but I just don't want to be the one responsible for telling everyone, hey, go put all your ETH on this, and then something happens and they lose it, and then they want to blame me for it. So you have to do your own due diligence on this. You're on your own, and the risk is on you, but they have multiple audits. They've got a very good bounty program, and there's over $1 billion currently in Lido.fi. So check it out if you're interested. If you have some Ethereum tokens, if you don't want to wait 12 months or 16 months and you still want to use DeFi with your ETH, maybe Lido is an option for you. You can throw some ETH in the Lido smart contract and earn a 7% interest currently, and they say that that's going to increase over time. And it's worth mentioning that 10% of the rewards mined through the staking goes toward the validators and also toward sort of a reserve pool, just in case there is any kind of slashing penalty for any of the validators, to act as an insurance to cover that. So they've also got that 10% set aside to reward those validators. That's their incentive for doing this, and to cover any of us who stake our ETH who end up having some kind of a slashing penalty. They've got a big pot there ready to kind of cover that loss, that potential loss. So I think it's a very intelligent design. And myself personally, I was able to use the MetaMask wallet in conjunction with a hardware wallet, and it was fairly easy, fairly seamless. And I did have to pay that gas fee, that kind of high Ethereum gas fee. But as long as you stake enough ETH, it's very much worth it to get that 7%. All right, and moving on to our second topic for this particular podcast, I want to talk to you about St. Kitts and Nevis and my decision to begin the steps to acquire my St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship. So St. Kitts and Nevis are two islands out in the Caribbean, and I live not far away from them. I'm currently living in Puerto Rico. And the reason I'm doing this is to act as a backup plan. And I just want to have that backup plan in place in case I need to use it. It doesn't mean that I'm renouncing my US citizenship, and it doesn't mean that I'm moving. It just means that I'm putting myself in a position where I could do those things if I need to, and if I feel like the situation in America or Puerto Rico gets bad enough. And I think I'll keep it simple and say it like that. I just personally feel like the direction that America is heading, it's not heading in a good direction. You know, the things we've seen from the lockdown and how it's been handled, the things we've seen with California and the just ever increasing threat of decisions from the presidential body. It just seems like it's a very dangerous and fickle and unpredictable place to be. And so I've decided that I want to have a backup plan in case things do get bad enough, and I don't want to be following the herd. I've always tended to be ahead of the curve when I make my decisions on things. That's why I've been early into crypto. That's why I've been early to Puerto Rico. And that's why I'm being early to apply for a second citizenship to St. Kitts and Nevis. You don't want to be the one following the herd when it's congested, when there's everyone trying to pile into something, and when there's limited resources available. You want to be the one at the beginning part of the curve. And so I've always prided myself on being able to spot opportunities generally before the masses spot them. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So let's talk about the St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship. And actually, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Jennifer Marlin of JHMarlin.com. She has been incredible to work with. I learned about her actually by watching one of her interviews with Heidi on Crypto Tips, the YouTube channel. And shout out to Heidi. She does an awesome job. I've really learned a lot from Heidi about the various travel options out there. And I've also learned a lot from the Nomad Capitalist. So all of these guys together have really helped me understand my options as far as places that might be good to get a second citizenship and why that might be a smart idea to consider. Also, a shout out to Roger Ver, who has been a pioneer in this particular space. He was one of the early adopters of gaining his particular St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship. So I just wanted to thank all those guys. They've all played an integral role in my decision to get a citizenship in St. Kitts and Nevis. So Jennifer has been awesome, and I'll put her contact info in the description below. She has been so communicative and so helpful for my steps on getting this citizenship. And I've only been working with her for just a couple days so far, but it's just been above and beyond. Like, she even went so far as to find places where I live locally where I can get some of the paperwork requirements completed for this particular citizenship. And so that was not something that she had to do. It was something that she volunteered to do. And I think that that was really awesome of her. So check out her site and contact her if you're interested. I think that she probably offers fairly competitive rates for the quality of job that she does. Someday, actually, I will look at getting a third citizenship, and that might be somewhere like Portugal or somewhere else. And I'm open to suggestions, and I'm open to help. And so maybe that's where someone like the Nomad Capitalist comes in handy. And the reason I chose St. Kitts and Nevis is because it is the gold standard of Caribbean citizenship by investment programs. It's the first, and it offers the most countries with its passport, and it's the most established and well recognized. And there are others out there, and you can look at those. I just figured I want the best. If I'm going to be looking at alternate citizenships, I want to have the best. And maybe that's not for you. Maybe you want to save some money and you want to get one of these other ones out there. There are cheaper citizenship by investment programs. The St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship currently is $150,000, but there are cheaper options out there for other islands that maybe don't offer as many countries on their passport or aren't as well established or as well recognized. But in making a fairly big lifestyle decision like this, something that someday I may come to rely upon as a backup plan, I figure that I want the best option out there. And so I didn't want to cut corners, personally speaking. And so that was my choice. But take a look at all the options out there. Just because I'm getting my St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship doesn't mean that that's the right option for you. And so far, I've only been about 2 days on the process for applying for the citizenship. And the first step is just getting all this paperwork together. And Jennifer has done an amazing job of putting it all in a very orderly fashion for me. And she sent me this whole packet of everything I need to do. It's like 24 steps in my case. And every one of the steps requires, or at least most of the steps require notarization from a notary. And they can be fairly involved steps. You know, it can be something like getting your bank to issue you a signed statement about your past 12-month history with them, or getting a medical examination and getting an HIV test and getting these things notarized. These are all part of these 24 steps, just to give you a flavor of some of them. Some of them are simpler, like getting your social security card or your passport notarized, but basically every document needs to get notarized. Unfortunately, in Puerto Rico, that can be fairly expensive because the notarization process here is a little more spendy than in the States. But basically, I just wanted to give you an idea that there is a lot of paperwork involved. It's not impossible. It's a little daunting, but once you start facing it and doing them one by one and checking them off the checklist, you can get through it like I'm doing. And I anticipate to be done with it in the next couple of weeks. I'm just kind of doing it part-time, but it's not just like you hand over your money and then you get a passport. You know, you actually have to do some work and get some paperwork and get some requirements filled out, and it is going to take you some time. So if you don't have that time available, I would recommend waiting until you do before you begin the process, because you do want to have your documents kind of all within like 3 months period, because otherwise some of them become stale and then they're no longer valid when you're applying. So just make sure you have the time set aside that you can get these various documents. And again, someone like Jennifer will be more than happy to help you through that process. Like I said, she's been super helpful in even locating places local to me to help me expedite this process. All right, guys, last in this podcast, I want to talk about Terra Luna and why I recently sold 25% of my EOS tokens for Luna. So I have a friend, shout out to Shaw of EOS Blocksmith. He's been kind of talking to me about Luna and the Terra Luna blockchain for, I would say, 5 or 6 months now. I think he told me about it, but it was just so far off my radar back then that I didn't have time to look at it. I was so immersed in my kind of myopic EOS mindset that I didn't look at other blockchains. And honestly, even though I've looked at other tokens on like Ethereum and EOS, I haven't looked at other entire blockchains really in depth. And Luna is the first entire other blockchain that I've actually invested in a very long time. So luckily, Shaw didn't give up, and he kept telling me about Terra Luna. And I remember him telling me about it at $3, $4, $5. So here it is, it's sitting at $16. And some of you might be going, God, Colin, why did you wait until it's $16 to buy in? You're totally late to the game. And yeah, sort of. Yeah, I am somewhat late to the game. But I look at things relative as investments. And I'm not buying Luna with dollars. I bought Luna with EOS tokens. And I put a tweet up recently. You can look it up if you're interested to see the chart. But basically, I waited for EOS to surge in price. EOS saw massive price appreciation recently, surging over 110%. It went from like $5 or $6 all the way to $12, all the way to $12.50 or 80 cents. And it did it in a very short period of time. It did that in like a week. And whenever a cryptocurrency surges that much in that short of a period of time, I know a couple of things. I know one, that it's overvalued on a short time period, and I know that it's going to correct. And so what I did is I took that opportunity to take another look at Luna. And Luna had remained flat for the past, I don't know, a couple months. It's flattened out and it looks like it's gearing up for another volley upward in price. I would not be surprised if Terra Luna ends up in the many hundreds of dollars per token. And that's partly because of what it offers as a blockchain, because it's being used by hundreds of millions of people as a platform to do commerce, and because it has a fairly limited coin supply. I think currently Terra Luna has something like 330 million tokens, give or take. So that's like a third of the amount of tokens that the EOS blockchain has. And that limited supply is a very valuable commodity. It's a very valuable attribute or characteristic of any blockchain. Any blockchain that has billions and billions or trillions of tokens is very, very diluted and very, very inflated as far as its token supply. And that's why something like Cardano that has like 40 billion tokens max supply has a price of like $1. And actually, I think that that's even very high because it doesn't have smart contracts yet, but I won't pull myself back into that topic. And something like EOS has over 1 billion tokens. With inflation, that increases that supply every year. And Block One and Dan Larimer are both in their own ways looking at increasing that inflation even more. And so those are very high total coin supply blockchains, and they look to only increase in the future. Well, Terra Luna is a little different. It could increase, but it could also decrease. And the thing about Terra Luna is that there's a burning of the supply. And this is something that's part of the ingenuity behind Terra Luna and something that I feel is very appealing to me as an investor. I think that the supply could end up decreasing over time, whereas the supply with something like EOS will only increase over time. And so that is part of the draw for me for Terra Luna. I know many of you diehard EOS holders have a hard time understanding why I might have sold 25% of my EOS for Luna. And it's anyone's guess about what will happen in 6 months from now. So that's why I did 25% of it. EOS was priced irrationally high on the short term. $12.50 was a huge spike up from $6. And with Terra Luna remaining flat, that just to me was a great buying opportunity. So I took a quarter of my EOS and I bought Luna with it. And I'm very happy that I did. I own coins in 2 different blockchains now. I'm a little more diversified, and I really, really like what Terra Luna is doing. Terra Luna has a vibrant ecosystem with tons of different dApps on it, and really it just required me to open my eyes to looking at something new because I had been so stubbornly stuck on just EOS, and I know so much about EOS that it's hard to go out into a new area where I don't know so much. And I'll admit it, I don't know everything about Terra Luna. I only know what I know so far, and I like what I see so far, but I have a lot to learn. And so maybe there's things about it that I don't know that I need to learn still that'll deter me from it. I'm not trying to proclaim that I do know everything about it, but some of you were very curious as to why I did what I did. And so I feel like I should at least explain it as I see things thus far. So in a nutshell, EOS was overvalued. Terra Luna is either flat or undervalued with, I think, a huge price potential in front of it. Don't get me wrong, I think that EOS has a tremendous price potential in front of it as well. And I will not be selling more than 50% of my EOS because I do anticipate EOS to have tremendous price increases. It's just recently broken out. Like just in the past 1 to 2 months, it's begun its reversal on its price trend and it's heading upward. And I think that it's just seen its first baby steps of what will be a $50 to $100 EOS price. But that being said, there are also good qualities about Terra Luna. And I could see Terra Luna, like I said, being many hundreds of dollars per token, partly due to its limited token supply, but also due to the fact that it's high capacity, it's low transaction cost, and it is being used. It's being used by real people in real commerce today. And Luna has staking, it has airdrops. It's really like the airdrop model that EOS was trying to be that sort of fizzled out. And now Luna is taking that on. And I hear that they have about 10 or 12 projects coming to its ecosystem in the very near future. And so if you hold Luna tokens, you will be getting a cut of those airdrops. And that is something that hasn't been very exciting on the EOS blockchain recently. Another thing I like very much about Luna is that it doesn't have the governance issues that EOS has, at least in terms of one token, one vote. On the Luna blockchain, it is so refreshing. I have tokens and I can only vote with one vote per token. So let's say I have 100 Luna tokens. I can delegate all 100 of those to any single validator, is what they're called on the Luna blockchain. Or I could take 50 Luna tokens and delegate those to one validator, and another 50 Luna tokens and delegate those to a different validator. So you can vote for as many of the validators as you want, but you have to do so with one vote per token. And that is just so refreshing. It actually took me a moment to break free of my mental shackles from EOS, thinking that I could vote for more than one when I suddenly realized I couldn't. I had to either pick one or divide my Luna tokens amongst different validators, but I was not allowed to take all of my tokens and vote 30 times with every one of those tokens. And that, to this day, is one of the major flaws in the EOS governance model. And I hope that it gets fixed, but it may or may not. It's been 3 years, and honestly, I'm tired of waiting. The cartels on EOS do exist. They are entrenched. They do vote with tokens from exchanges, and they vote themselves in and their friends. And so, as I've said for years, I don't like that. And this is me, in a way, I guess, voting with my feet. And I'm going where I'm treated best on a blockchain basis. So I urge you to check it out. There are quite a few awesome and very high quality DeFi projects on the Terra Luna blockchain, with more coming down the pipeline. And another thing I like a lot about Terra Luna that I don't care so much about EOS is the fact that the creators of Terra Luna themselves created kind of a de facto standard client, a wallet. And it's a web wallet, and it's a standalone wallet, whether you're on Windows, you're on Mac, or you're just using the web browser. It's clean, it's elegant, it works perfectly, it works flawlessly, and it's created by the team that created Terra Luna. And that's something that Block One originally was going to do for EOS. They were going to create their own standard wallet, and they didn't do it. They backed off and they said, you know what, we're going to leave this up to the community. And I think by leaving it up to the community, they let the community kind of flounder around, and we had different implementations in wallets. We had Wombat, and we had Fairy Wallet, and we had Scatter, and we had Graymass, and now we have the Anchor wallet, but there's no de facto standard. And I think that all that did was stunt the EOS development as far as making it easy for users to transact tokens in a way that is reliable and that is not confusing. And Block One has stepped away from EOS in so many different ways that I think it's just refreshing to see a wallet that's standardized. And it doesn't mean that they can't have other wallets on their ecosystem, but it's really nice to have a standardized wallet. You know, on Bitcoin, they have Bitcoin Core. On Cardano, they have their Daedalus wallet, I think it's called. On EOS, there is no standard wallet. There's just a bunch of different implementations. And that can lead to confusion for users, especially when each client isn't as reliable as you might hope, or maybe doesn't handle all the fees as seamlessly as one might hope. So anyways, on Terra Luna, there is a standard client wallet, and it's very nice to use. I've used it myself. It's awesome. You can stake your tokens, you can vote for validators, and it just works, and it's great. So to quickly name off all the reasons I'm bullish about Terra Luna, it's the dozen or so projects that are coming to the platform. It's the airdrops that are coming. It's the huge APR interest when delegating one's votes to a validator. I think I'm making like 10% on my Luna right now, whereas with EOS, I'm making all of like 2 or 3% with the vote rewards and barely anything with the Rex system. So the staking rewards are much higher on Terra Luna. Also, it has the client implementation that just works, and it works beautifully. And there's a ton of different DeFi projects that are built and working on Terra Luna. There's actually a bridge on Terra Luna that allows you to swap tokens between Ethereum, Terra Luna, and Binance Smart Chain. And as a side note, for anyone who happens to maybe accidentally end up with some wrapped Terra Luna tokens, they do exist out there in ERC20 format on the Ethereum blockchain. It's a wrapped Luna token. Don't ask me why it exists. I'm sure there's some good reason for it. I don't know why that exchanges don't just use the actual Luna blockchain, but there is an ERC20 version of Luna. And if you end up with that token, because I actually did at one point, you can actually fairly easily convert that over to the actual Luna blockchain. So don't fret. You can use the bridge, and you do have to pay that one-time Ethereum gas fee of like $15 or whatever it is. But once you do that, your ERC20 wrapped Luna tokens will then be regular Luna tokens on the Luna blockchain. So I was worried for a second that I was on the wrong blockchain having these ERC20 Luna tokens, but actually you can seamlessly swap back and forth between the Ethereum, the Binance Smart Chain, and the Luna blockchain with a variety of tokens, not just the Luna token. And the last two reasons I'm very bullish on Terra Luna, at least so far, because I have so much to learn, is that it does have a very much reduced coin supply from a blockchain like EOS or Cardano. It has less than 1 billion tokens. It has like 1/3 of 1 billion tokens. And every time I've seen any token or blockchain with a low number of tokens, in the long run, that has translated to increased price. You know, like when the Strong token recently reduced their token supply by 95% back in November. There was a delay, but then the price shot up. And with the DeFi Box platform and the Box token on the EOS blockchain, similarly, they burned like 95 million of the 100 million tokens. So all that's left for the Box token is 5 million tokens. And there was a similar delay, and then the price shot up tremendously. And so a similar phenomenon here with Terra Luna is that it has not only less tokens currently than these other blockchains, but it also burns tokens. So that's something that I find very desirable. Lastly, Terra Luna is being used in the real world. I think it's being used over in Korea, where it's actually used in everyday shopping, and it has a whole very diverse stablecoin system. And these stablecoins are used interchangeably between different nations, different jurisdictions, to allow one to easily participate in global commerce. So we have the Luna token underpinning all these different stable tokens on top. And I don't know enough about that to talk any more about it, so I'm going to leave it at that. But just know that there's a very diverse and rich ecosystem of stable tokens built on top of Luna, and it's actually the most rich stable token system that I've personally ever seen. But again, I'm just digging into it. I'm just diving in. And with that, guys, I think that I've talked for long enough here. So I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I've talked about Lido and staking your Ethereum on the Ethereum 2.0 blockchain. We've talked about St. Kitts and Nevis and my new application for that citizenship and the steps involved with that. And we've talked about Terra Luna and why I've recently bought my first Luna tokens and how I am excited about the future prospect of this particular blockchain. I do think that it could be a top 10 contender in the future. And I hope that you enjoy this long format podcast. Let me know if you like this. It does allow me to do longer form recordings than if it was a video because the editing is much easier. That's all I have for you today, guys. I hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you again soon. Please like this video. Please drop a comment. Please share with your friends. Please subscribe. And thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, because I have just reached 30,000 subscribers on my channel. Super exciting. I'm super pumped about that. And I will continue to bring you great content in the future. Please remember to check out the CBBI.info website to track the Bitcoin bull run on its way up, because all these other tokens do generally move when Bitcoin moves, and they do generally follow Bitcoin as far as the macro cycles are concerned. So that's CBBI.info, the Colin Talks Crypto Bitcoin Bull Run Index. Have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you again soon.